Hello, in this lecture we will look at Wilfred Owen's poems, specifically Strange Meeting. First we will see the historical and literary context. Wilfred Owen, we are familiar, he is a war poet. So, we will pay attention to the context in which he wrote his poems and his colleagues, soldier poets and others who wrote poems, and then we will read the first poem, Anthem for the Doomed Youth, next Futility, give our observations and then move on to the third poem, Strange Meeting, and analyze this poem, finally offer an intertextual reading between Owen and Wordsworth. Finally, we will recall the line where ignorant armies clash by night from Arnold's poem Dover Beach and connect it with Owen's Strange Meeting. As we observed, Owen was a poet who participated in the First World War from 1914 to 1918. This war started on 28 July 1914 and ended on November 11, 1918. Because of this war, 9 million people died, it is said. Similarly, some 60 million people were wounded in this war. In addition, because of this war, some pandemic occurred and some 100 million deaths occurred worldwide. A major cause of this world war was the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophia in Austria. Many countries were involved in this war. The major players were France, Russia, Britain on the one hand, Germany, Austria, Hungary and Italy on the other hand. Later on, Italy pulled out of the war for their own reasons. In this war climate, many poets wrote poems, some for war, some against war. Initially, war was considered to be a glorious effort, endeavor of humankind, but then when the soldiers themselves went to the battlefield and started writing poems, they began to give a different picture of the war altogether. Here we have a list of poets who participated in the war and wrote poems. Edward Thomas also was a soldier. He wrote this poem among many others as a team's head brass. Similarly, we have Rupert Brooke, whose poem The Soldier initially glorified the war, but then later on Rupert Brooke changed his opinion and started understanding the evil consequences of war. Then we have Charlotte Mew with the poem The Cenotaph, Siegfried Sassoon's poem To Any Dead Officer, Isaac Rosenberg's poem Break of Day in the Trenches, and lastly we have Charles Hamilton Morley's When You See Millions of Mouthless Dead. So, the theme of all these poets is very clear: death and devastation, and they ask questions. What is the necessity? Why this war? Why so many killings, deaths, destructions? That is the cry of these war poets. One of the most famous war poets is Wilfred Owen, born in 1893 and died in 1918 at a very young age. He joined the army on October 21st, 1915, but then returned to hospital because of a shell shock. There in Scotland, that is in the hospital called Craiglockhart War Hospital, he met Siegfried Sassoon. He was also a soldier and wounded, and he was admitted there. So, he met Sassoon and mastered the craft of poetry. Again, after his recovery, he returned to war and got killed on November 4th, 1918. During his war experience and in the hospital, he was writing poems, in fact even editing one small magazine from the hospital. Later on, he wrote many poems and sent them to his mentor Sassoon. During his own lifetime, only 4 poems were published. After his death, Edmund Blunden, another poet, and his friend Siegfried Sassoon edited and published Owen's poems posthumously. After the poems were published, Owen was recognized as a great war poet, but ignored by Yeats in the Oxford Book of Modern Verse. Yeats had his own take on Owen, saying that that was not fit to be good poetry. However, Owen is well known for his experiments with half rhymes and poems like Anthem for Doomed Youth, Futility, Insensibility and Strange Meeting. These titles themselves indicate the kind of attitude Owen had for war. Let us look at this poem Anthem for Doomed Youth first. What passing bells for these who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifles' rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries now for them, no prayers nor bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs, the shrill, demented choirs of wailing shells and bugles calling for them from sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them all, not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds. This is a sonnet. The next one, Futility, is also a sonnet. Move him into the sun, gently its touch awoke him once at home, whispering of fields half sown. Always it woke him, even in France, until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clays of a cold star, or limbs so dear achieved, or sides full nerved, still warm, too hot to stir. Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all? This poem on futility indicates a pointless and meaningless movement of the sun to give life to plants and animals on the earth. A plant grows, a soldier, a human being also grows and then meets death in the war. The poet asks a question, was it for this the clay grew tall? We have some observations on these two poems and then a list of questions which the poet has raised in his poems. Anthem for Doomed Youth and Futility are sonnets, as we said. Anthem is a song in praise of a country. Owen's ironic use of this term anthem to refer to dying soldiers in the war is itself a comment on war. Nothing can be gained from the war except futility, that is the view of the poet. We have some questions here, hard questions, difficult questions from the poet for all humankind. All of us, past dead people and now and future people who will be coming in the future, our posterity will have to always answer these questions. Why do nations fight with each other, killing soldiers and civilians? Who are the soldiers who go to war? Who are the decision makers? What do they care for? And ultimately, what is the achievement of humanity in indulging in this kind of futile war? Poets have always asked this kind of question, disturbing question to the society. Now we move on to the next poem, Strange Meeting. We will discuss this poem in detail after reading this poem. We have some sections and indicated the sections by 1 and 2. We will see them one after another. It seemed that out of battle I escaped down some profound dull tunnel, long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had grown. It also their encumbered sleepers groan, too fast in thought or death bestirred. Then as I probed them, one sprang up and stared, with piteous recognition fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless, and by his smile I knew that sullen hall, by his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. Section 3. With 1,000 fears that vision's face was grain, yet no blood reached there from the upper ground, and no guns thumped or down the flues made moan. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. None, said the other, save the undone years, the hopelessness. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not calm in eyes or braided hair, but marks the steady running of the hour, and if it grieves, grieves richlier than here. Section 3 continues. For by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left which must die now. I mean the truth untold, the pity of war, the pity war distilled. Now men will go content with what we spoil, or discontent boil bloody and be spilled. They will be swift with the swiftness of the tigress. None will break ranks, though nations trek from progress. Courage was mine and I had mystery, wisdom was mine and I had mastery, to miss the march of this retreating world into vain citadels that are not walled. Section 3 and 4. Then when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells. Even with the truths that lie too deep for taint, I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. I am the enemy you killed, my friend. I knew you in this dark, for so you frowned. Yesterday through me as you jabbed and killed, I parried, but my hands were loath and cold. Let us sleep now. The poem is left incomplete by the poet. These 44 lines are very powerful lines in this poem Strange Meeting, discussing the impact of war on the soldier and the society. Let's look into the thematic contrast presented in this poem between war and peace on the one hand, and then we look at this hell and heaven. We saw this in the poem. Death and life is very prominent in this poem. Fear and hope, discontentment and contentment, cowardice and courage, ignorance and wisdom, enemy and friend, separation and meeting. These are the contrasts that we find in this poem. All of them point to the thematic crux. Discrimination on grounds of nationality is meaningless. Enemies and friends are the same human beings with similar emotions, longing for love and life. Young people sent to war to fight for the nation, and then they find they have similar minds, similar thoughts, similar feelings. Why do they kill each other? This emotion of futility, who will tell the world? That's why the pity of war, the untold truth, Owen and many other poets wanted to share with the world. But then whatever experiences human beings have shared, we seem to be not learning from history. It's often said we don't learn from history. We continue to make the same mistakes again and again. These are costly, we know. Still, we don't seem to be bothering about the kind of destruction we bring upon ourselves. We have a number of questions further for discussion with regard to this particular poem. Strange Meeting. What does the title reveal? Strange Meeting. How does the poem begin? Scooped. Which is the venue? Where do they meet? In the tunnel. Who are the participants? They are two soldiers. How does the speaker know where he is? He understands that he is in hell by realizing that he is meeting a dead soldier. Why are they here at all? They don't understand why they are here. It is beyond their control. Because of their war situation, they are here in this tunnel. Why does the speaker talk about the pity of war? This kind of ground reality decision makers may not know. That's why the poets, particularly Wilfred Owen, is talking about the pity of war. What are humans doing with themselves is a big question. They are interacting, these two soldiers, they are interacting, talking about the hope, the fear, the courage, the ignorance they all had. How does the poem end? Let's sleep now. It's all useless, it's all meaningless. That's how the soldiers feel about the war. How does the poem expose the limitations of the binaries of war and peace, enemy and friend? That's a question that we are raising to reveal that ultimately these binaries don't matter. This kind of discrimination on grounds of nationality, race, gender, so many other categories don't matter. We are all human beings. We want to live. We are born in this world. We want to live. We want to love. We want to enjoy life. But our systems don't understand the ground realities. We must remember that among all the war poets, Wilfred Owen has a high place, and one of the reasons is he has employed many of the poetic devices in his poems. We can see a number of poetic devices in this poem by Wilfred Owen, who is actually known for many of the poetic devices that he used in his poems. Precisely because of these poetic devices, Wilfred Owen is more well known than other war poets. First, we see imagery with reference to Titanic war, granite, dark tunnel in the opening lines. Similarly, we see alliteration in granites, groined, sprang up and stared. We also see transferred epithet in distressful hands. Some of these adjectives used by Owen are very powerful, they are really heartrending. We see assonance in the pity of war, the pity war distilled. Alliteration with repetition we see in swift with swiftness. Parallelism we notice in courage was mine and I had mystery, wisdom was mine and I had mastery. Almost a syntactical parallelism we can see here. Next we have alliterations in miss the march, spirit without stint. Then we see the paradox of life in this line, I am the enemy you killed my friend. Who will kill the friend? But here friends are killing each other. And then we have assonance in loath and cold, perhaps this O suggesting the O of mankind, the suffering of mankind. We have rhyme, rhythm and meter in this poem. Rhyme is specifically para rhyme in the case of Owen because he is known for it. Here are some famous examples: groined, groaned, bestirred, stared, eyes bless. The rhythm of this poem comes from the iambic pentameter that the poet has used. Example we have in two lines, and by his smile I knew that sullen hall, by his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. Except for this dead smile, which is a case of spandi, we have mostly iambs. Then we have caesura, enjambment and end-stopped lines in the following example. I am the enemy you killed my friend, I knew you in this dark, for so you frowned. Yesterday threw me as you jabbed and killed. We have variations in line length in line 28 and 29 which have an extra syllable. We also have some key words being repeated: knew, wound, pity, smile. Who will understand the wounds of these poets? Who will understand the wounds of these soldiers, civilians? Who will pity them? The poet can only smile, and probably this is a kind of knowledge, wisdom that the poet wants to share with the rest of humanity. To give an overall impression, we can pay attention to these points listed here. This is a strange poem about two strange soldiers in a strange place, about the strange life we live. It appears that life is common, but only when we come across certain incidents, as we notice in this poem between the two soldiers meeting in the tunnel, and that too after their death, we can understand. We think wars are fought to protect people and property, but the poem reveals the pity or horror of war. The interaction between the speaker and the dead soldier creates a strange feeling of how cruel we are to each other without understanding that we all have similar feelings of living and enjoying life. That is what all great literary texts try to convey to the world. All of us are similar, we have similar feelings, we want to live, we want to enjoy life. The speaker urges people to remove differences and reconcile themselves to a life of peace and harmony in which truth, beauty and happiness could prevail and sustain humanity. If we do not pay attention to this kind of harmony in the world, peace in the world, this is the kind of destruction we will face. We know still we seem to be heading towards more and more of catastrophic situations. Owen's discordant words, images, rhymes, rhythms, lines etc. depict the disastrous warmongers and the devastating consequences. An intertextual reading we are offering here by bringing two poems or some extracts from two poems together, one from Owen's Strange Meeting, another from Wordsworth's Ode on Intimations of Immortality. We have underlined those lines where we have this kind of intertextuality or influence or some traces. First let us see Owen's poem. Then when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. These are the lines from Strange Meeting. We have underlined the third line from top, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. This expression, truths that lie too deep for taint, has a trace of Wordsworth's poem Ode on Intimations of Immortality. We have quoted 4 lines from Wordsworth, let us see them. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears, to me the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. Thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. Actually these are contrasting poems. One is a war poem, another is a romantic poem. One talks about hopelessness, another talks about all kinds of hope. How are these two related? That is where we see even in the worst of situations like Owen's faces, we find some element of hope. Hope is the heart of poetry. Owen wrote this poem with that hope to tell the untold truth so that humankind may survive. This thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears, the structural similarity, truths and thoughts can be interchanged. What is the truth about? That is the thoughts that we have. What are the thoughts that we have? The truths about life. They are too deep in our heart and mind. They are always there. They will well up, they will come out to protect humanity. But we have to listen. We have to understand, we have to act to protect ourselves. So we have brought these two extracts together to show how certain words and lines can evoke certain resemblances between poems, finally touching upon the common humanity that lies in all of us. We have a summary of the discussion so far. We refer to the historical and literary context in which Wilfred Owen wrote his poems. We refer to the First World War and then the World War poets, and then we read Anthem for the Doomed Youth, Futility, and then Strange Meeting. Specifically we focused on Strange Meeting with reference to the poetic devices and gave one overall impression of this poem. Then focusing on one particular line, we gave an intertextual reading between Owen and Wordsworth, pointing out the common humanity that lies in all of us, which can hopefully protect all of us. We also wanted to refer to another poem, Arnold's Dover Beach, which ends with this line, where ignorant armies clash by night. We have to recall that Arnold was remembering Sophocles. This is the history of mankind. This kind of wars have always been fought for no reason. Maybe some apparent reasons are there, but ignorance is a cause according to Arnold, and probably that is what Owen also tries to tell us. We are ignorant of what we are doing, and the consequences only some soldiers, some people are affected, whereas others are not that much affected. Why is this? Why is this kind of division? Why is this kind of indifference? That is a kind of question that Owen asks, and many other poets, not only war poets, many other poets have asked about our society, our humanity. We have some interesting references here. Those of you who are interested may read more about Owen and his poems from some of these references. Thank you.